Good morning, traders. So how do we trade the DAX today? So we're still using the Bull-Williams theory, and yet another sort of indecision day. We've been left with a hanging man or a pin bar. The last 2 days has really been indecisive, so there's a lot of movement through the day, but ultimately we are still sort of running inside a channel. Okay, and we'll look at that on the lower time frames. So I just want to have a look at what the futures is doing at the moment. So futures sitting at 11,370. That is 11,340. Okay, so we are sort of hovering a little bit off where we closed. Okay, so just having a look at the daily. So from the daily perspective, trend is still down, although we do have the alligator here starting to flatten out and potentially cross over. If we look at the awesome oscillator, you can see we have sort of an inverse head and shoulders here on the awesome oscillator. Okay, so that in itself, we have this divergence here, which is there's a double bottom on price, and we have this level here. The thing that's concerning me though is we have the previous high up here. Let's get a cursor here. So you can see previous high up here, and look at the oscillator here on the daily. We are sort of heading towards a double top or a continuation divergence pattern. So that is the one thing that worries me on the daily. So let's just get down to the lower time frames. Okay, so here we can see a little bit clearer. Bear in mind this line here is pretty much where price is at the moment, so it's not far off from where we actually closed. So we can just get rid of that, and then what we want to do is pick up. It's difficult to pick up an exact level here, but it's more like a zone that we are flirting with at the moment. And that's kind of roughly what it is. If I look at all these tails here and see all this congestion here. Okay, so technically we are sort of trending up. So we are in a bit of an uptrend. It's not convincing. I think that's the big problem. And if I draw this horizontal trend line here, we sort of gapped up above it, came below it, and then we closed 2 4-hour candles above this trend line. So again, that gives me a more of a bullish outlook at the moment, but it's just not convincing. Okay, so there you go there, and do that, or we can do that. And the Dax is an instrument that just loves running in channels. So yeah, I would pretty much look at that as a channel right now. So yeah, it's as I said yesterday, it's still very volatile. A lot of indecision for me, but this little rally, sort of the last 4 hours of the market going into the US close, this is basically driven by the Fed's announcements. The Fed speech that came out last night, and that's what drove sort of punished the dollar a bit and drove the market up. So basically, what happened is the Feds came out sounding a little bit dovish. So they've been hawkish for quite a while, and they became a little bit more dovish. So that's what drove the market last night. Anyway, what are we going to do with this thing today? As you can see, the awesome oscillator again is flat, and you see this when we've got a lot of indecision. This is what happens. We are also grouping the top side here, So again, this is not something that I actually want to be trading at the moment. So I'm more than likely going to leave the DAX alone again for today, and I get to the weekly. And I think that the main reason for this is this 200 moving average here. So if we just come back to a lower time frame, you'll see what I mean. So we are on the 200 weekly EMA. Okay. So that in itself is probably the level that we need to watch. And you can see over the last 3 days, this is what we've been flirting with. And the bulls are trying to push us down because they're trying for that big head and shoulders to play out. And the bears are trying to get sort of a Christmas rally going, or even just a bit of, to close the year positively, because at this stage we've erased all the gains of the previous year. Okay, and this head and shoulders is pretty telling. Okay, so yeah, it's a bit of a tug of war at the moment, and for me, I'd rather be honest with you, I'd rather trade one of the US markets. I'm not really interested in trading this thing. So if you are going to trade it, I mean, I can't really even give you some decent advice, because I mean, if I look at yesterday where we broke above the fractals and then we broke below the fractals, then we broke above and I mean, this was really a day of confusion. Not even, see, we didn't even tag. I've expected us to come back a little bit further and tag something down here, but we didn't. It's not even neat enough to pick up a decent channel. We're sort of guesstimating a channel at the moment. So, yeah, I'm not going to be trading this. So my advice to you would be to look at a different instrument. But if you are hell-bent on trading this instrument at the moment, the trend is currently up. I'd be really worried about what the oscillators are telling me at the moment. And from the daily, so from the daily down. Okay, so let's just have a look at the ichimoku. That would give us a little bit of a vision. Okay, so from the daily perspective, trend is still down, although we have crossed up above Kijinsen. The oscillator is what's worrying me. Okay, you can see whenever this oscillator peaks up in this area, we have a sell-off that happens. Okay, so that is worrying me. Now we may still rally for the whole day and then fall off, or we may rally half a day and fall off, or we may rally for today and tomorrow and then come off. But at this stage, there is a pullback that is coming, or sideways consolidation. If I look at the 4-hour, we broke through the cloud, came back, tested, and we broke it through. So that's verified the fact that we've got a breakout. Problem that I have is that the cloud is pointing down and Dickinson's pointing down. Okay, you don't want to be trading that. So you want them both to be pointing to the upside, which is indicating a trend to the upside, or they are both pointing to the downside, which indicates a trend to the downside. Okay, this nonsense where it's flat and when your cloud is flat is a problem. Okay, so there's nothing really to read into that. And if I go down to the 1-hour, you'll see we did get a bullish crossover now. Now, the thing about this, we've got a bullish crossover above the cloud. We've got Chico span, this brown line, which is broken through price, and the cloud is green and pointing up. So on the 1-hour, we are bullish. Okay, so the high time frames, we are looking bearish, and on the 1-hour, we are kind of bullish, although we have gone flat here. So there's nothing really for me to read into this. And I'm just going to come back to the Bull Williams, and let's break this down to the 30-minute. So what you're looking at, oops, sorry, wrong line. So what you want to be looking at is sort of these fractal levels here. So that's the first one, and that's the second one. So I would be looking at a long. If I was crazy enough to trade this at the moment, I'd be looking at a long from the open, but I'd have a stop below this level. If we do break below this fractal, that's not a valid short signal, not on the half hour, okay? Because that fractal is higher than the teeth, the red line here. So that is not a valid signal. Okay, this may be a bit of a flag. Let me see another little channel here. Okay. So this may be a bit of a channel here. So if we do break below this fractal, that would break the channel. And then obviously you're looking to come back into this area here. Again, it's not a valid short signal for me. This is more of a setup of if it does come back and we find support down here, then that is a long entry. Okay, but just bear in mind that we could very well be in, we could still be in a bit of a consolidation phase. So it could still run off. If it does come down to this level here, that does look like a 50% Fibonacci. Yeah, pretty close. So here's our 50% Fibonacci. So a pullback into this area here would offer me a long opportunity. So that would be long with a stop below this fractal here. So what you're doing is you are risking sort of 80 points. Okay. Yeah, so that's kind of the only thing that I can see at the moment. We have sort of broken the channel. The channel's not very clear, but we have sorry, not the channel, the range. So we have kind of closed above the range. That did happen after hours. So I would expect us either sideways or just consolidates the downside. And then you got to watch this fractal level. That fractal breaks, look for an entry here. If we get below that, then your next level is going to be on these pots here. A break below 11274, all bets are off. Then you're looking at downside. Okay, for me at the moment, it is looking long. It's just there's no valid signal. So I'd wait for a pullback to get on this. Okay, anyway guys, that's my view for today. Hope it helps, and I will catch you later. Cheers for now.